Rich.
Morning, Douglas. You're a Douglas, right? Or a Doug?
I can work with either. What? You're disappointed, aren't you, because you thought I was on holiday this week and next week and that you had another hour in bed?
I genuinely thought laying there. Doug's in the US this morning. I thought I better check as soon as we've got 15 minutes till we start recording. No, mate, next week. Okay.
I sort of half toyed with the idea of saying, "Oh, let's not worry about it." But then I thought we need to press forward.
No, you've got to keep me accountable, Doug.
We have to press forward. Were you in London yesterday?
No, I'm not in London this week at all. Actually, going to enjoy just trundling down the road to the office.
I have got I've got 3 segments today. Have you got anything, or shall I take us away?
No, you take us away. Come on, let's go.
Okay, segment 1. This is small business, side hustle, cash rich opportunity.
I hope.
So going to the US and looking for stuff to do, and to Chicago, going to New York, and looking at Airbnb experiences, just because I've booked a place on there and I'm in the platform. First observation is they're not that exciting. They're okay, but they're nothing really jumped out at me. I think there's a huge opportunity to set up a company like people do with the Airbnb stays that really think about high quality experiences. And I've got a couple of ideas I want to run past you. The first one inspired by my dad. So he spent his entire retirement, like 30, 40 years, just cycling around Essex. So his first hobby, cycling. Second hobby, really interested in crime and murders. And both of my elder brothers were detectives in the police. And they would always come to our house and he would sit them down and he would give his view on, I know you're working on this big case. I've looked into it. And this is before the internet. This is literally him looking into it is just him thinking about it. He's
one of those newspaper things in the library, right? Just one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Real old school. Got the eyeglass out.
Yeah.
And he just loved murders and he loved cycling. So what he had done, he overlaid those two passions. And then when people came to visit, so I'd have a mate down from uni or like a relative would come, he'd take them on a tour of the Essex murder sites. So it's a bike tour. It was maybe 15, 20 miles, pretty light, but he'd go around the actual sites where gangland murders had happened in Essex. So do you remember the film Essex Boys?
I do, yeah.
With Sean Bean. Yeah, that was on it. The site of that murder was on his tour. So you're standing there and he's there in his full bike gear, his lycra. You're there, you've just cycled out 4 miles out into the country and you're on the site and he's talking about the background, how it happened, the police investigation. People quite enjoyed it. Now, obviously, this is decades before Airbnb. But how cool would that be as a tour, right? You're just visiting London and there's a cycling murder tour that you can pay $60 or whatever. And you can get on the train out of London, you get met at the station by a middle-aged guy in some lycra. And he just drives you, he's got your bikes and he drives you around murder sites. So that is, the idea is I think anyone can set up a side hustle doing something like that. And I've got a few specific ideas. But what do you think about Airbnb, setting up an Airbnb experience business?
So first off, there's a lot to download there. We need to link below the best YouTube video known to man, which is Sean Bean saying "you bastard" for 5 minutes in different scenes across his whole career. So that needs to be down below because everybody needs to see that. Macabre cycling tours. Yeah, I mean, it's niche, isn't it? Not exactly one for all of the family. We definitely wouldn't go to the family experiences. But yeah, I mean, these Airbnb tours, they're fascinating. We've done a few. We did when we went through Italy a couple of years ago. We did a couple like food tours. It's sometimes the best way to get to know a local area, 100%. And I think what's great about the Airbnb Airbnb stuff is its access. You feel confident that these people have been approved, or you feel a bit, you trust the reviewing system because you've been booking properties with them for 5 years, and you think, well, the Airbnb, I'm going to give this a go. So there is a level of security, or at least a feeling of security, or that it might be all right. And I think when you rock up into Crete in 2002, and no offence to the person running the boat tour that day or the food tour that day that you find down the local port, you don't know whether it's any good, right? And there was, you could go to TripAdvisor and all the rest of it, but it was also disparate and kind of very difficult to judge. I think the access that Airbnb gives you is tremendous. The challenge, assuming that you've got a great tour, like, Haynes Murder cycling tours, is going to get more and more competitive, and then you're going to have to go more and more against other people in the Surrey region. But you can find a niche in an area that you think you can get high footfall, or you might even be a destination, dare I say it, like Essex Murder Tours might be a destination. I think it could be great, couldn't it? And I don't know what Airbnb take, probably 30%, 20%, 30%, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, I think, so the way I think it will go, so Airbnb started off as, it literally is just, someone renting out their spare room. And it's obviously now become commercialised, where you've got people that have got loads of properties and they run it like real businesses. I think to some extent, I think the tour thing has gone that way. There are companies on there that are tour companies that use Airbnb as a sales channel. But I think there's way, way more scope to do that and set up it as a business. So it's not just you delivering the cycling tour around Essex, because that's obviously goes from being a side hustle to being a massive pain. I've got 3 ideas for London Airbnb tours, and I think actually I've got 4. I think one's really good. I think 3 are a little bit sketchy. I'm just going to hit you quick fire.
Don't tell me which one you rate.
Okay, let me just mess up the order a bit. All right. First one, houses of famous politicians, or where politicians hang out. So there's loads of sort of pubs in London that are famous for various politicians going to them and drinking. There's one in like Stockwell where a few Labour MPs go. So you can have a bar crawl that is around like 10 pubs, and in each pub it's like, this politician went drinking here, and a little bit about them. So that's the first one. The second one is following the footsteps of elite athletes. So The Athletic did an article where the journalist took the journey that Raheem Sterling used to take into training every day when he was at
Spitstall,
I'm not sure what team he was at, but it was a 2-hour trek across London. He'd take like 3 buses and he had to walk down some rank road, and he did that return trip every day, and it's through like the back end shithole part of London. So you could like recreate those. The third one is, no, let's just do 3. That one's just so shit. The third one is World War II, key World War II sites. So, for example, in Dalston, there's a block of flats called Kerridge Court that is named after a bomb disposal expert that was killed trying to deal with an unexploded ordnance from an air raid. And I would imagine no one that lives in those flats now, which are probably worth £1 million, even has a clue why it's called Kerridge Court. Not that that's your target audience, but just imagine the unbelievable history and richness of different sites for things like that around London. So, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the World War II site, following the footsteps of stars, or the British politician pub crawl?
100% the one that's actually got genuine history to it, and that's the World War II one.
Yes,
I think if you were, you'd have to be. I mean, the politicians is maybe like humorous, but I don't think you're going to get. I don't know if maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if people give a shit enough about politicians to want to go and bother spending their day doing that. I think if you had some form of Google map list that push notified over Google Maps saying, hey, Boris Johnson goes here, that might be quite interesting. Or if you said, Jeremy Corbyn might be in the corner doing something, that also might be interesting. But I mean, maybe it's me because I'm not very political, but I don't give a shit where these guys drink or girls drink or women drink. I want them to do their job and get it right. Whereas the World War II thing, I find that fascinating. So whenever I go places, mind you, this might be also my interest level, but that's got true history. Why is it called Kerridge Court? Why? Because it's great. Because it's this reason. Well, not because it's great, because the guy got his head blown off probably. But, that's the heritage. And I think heritage and nostalgia and history is way more compelling. In terms of where the stars go, I mean, I guess you're talking when he was like a youth player or something, right? Because I'm pretty certain he goes in his Range Rover, Rolls Royce Cullinan now. World War II by mile.
Yeah, so that's the one I think. And I don't think you'd have to spend very long brainstorming ideas to come up with 10 or 15 really good ideas for tours. So Airbnb, so just very quickly the economics of this. So Airbnb is one sort of distribution channel. Let's just say you get 30 people a week spending £50 on a tour. You've got 1,500 to play with there. And let's just say that's net of Airbnb fees. Let's just say you just do 3 tours for that. So 3 10-person tours a week, 1,500 quid. You pay someone really good money to run a tour, like literally £300. 300, like get a really good person. Give them a load of training, a load of detail, a load of richness. I don't quite know where you'd find them, but that's going to be my second idea today. That's going to, that's making 40, 50,000 a year for administering that. That's just for one tour. You can also use search engines to drive traffic to this as well. You could use paid, but if you know SEO at all, people are searching for like cool stuff to do in London. So if you centered it around a city and you use those distribution channels, I think it just opens up huge opportunity to make a really, really profitable, low risk, low capital intensive tour business.
Do you know, the challenging thing with the World War II stuff is the depth of knowledge, because you're highly likely going to get people on a tour who are going to question. So the training piece is the difficult bit. If you could, I mean, I'm fairly certain within a day I could design a pretty good World War II tour around London. I could design that, I could get the places, I could probably do the crib sheet of what should be said during that period. But the challenge comes is like when you do get to Kerridge Court and someone says, what happened to poor old Tommy Kerridge? We obviously know he understands he died, but what year was it? Any background from him? Do we know where this bomb came from? All of that kind of stuff, that true depth of understanding, which are the true nuggets of those tours, is the challenging bit, I think. But I think the concept of pulling together a group of tours executed by someone else, centrally managed and centrally controlled, with the traffic coming into one tour company, for sure, definitely. I think it depends on how easily and quickly you can train up your people and get those tours delivered to a high standard, because it's going to live and die by reviews.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a recruitment challenge, isn't it?
Because we went to a great thing the other night. It was called Seance, and it was basically. Actually, I shouldn't probably talk about it because it's still going on, and that's not probably fair. But the guy out front, I guess, who was the welcome person, or almost the compere of it, was superb. Is this kind of big barrel-chested, kind of 6'3" type actor chap, big beard, and he just set the whole thing up superbly. Quite funny, but also quite very theatrical. And that whole experience, because it was immersive, the whole experience started with your first interaction with him. And I think if you're going to do anything that is connecting history, or anything that's connecting kind of human experience with other human beings, you've got to have a certain quality of delivery I think, around it.
Yeah, and the problem with the London, let's just say it's a London World War II Blitz tour or something like that, the problem is that it is going to require a lot of imagination to bring those scenes to life, because Carriage Court is going to be the most dross-looking block of flats in Dalston.
Still worth $1 million to go then.
Yeah, and creating that scene is going to be hard. Like, we did a tour in Poland. We went to Hitler's forest. What was it called? It was basically his headquarters. It's just in some forest somewhere. It's been kind of mostly just... Yeah, Wolfslayer, exactly. And it's been mostly destroyed. I don't know if you've been there.
I've watched a YouTube video on it.
Yeah, so the thing about the Wolf's Lair is the tour guide wasn't as crucial because the setting itself was just so haunting. It did a lot of the work for you. Of course, the tour guide really, really helped, make it good, but the setting itself was good. Whereas in London, if you're doing a blitz, you're right, you're going to need someone to really tell a great story and bring that to life, because it's going to be unrecognisable now to what it was then.
Yeah, so there's a lot of imagination when it comes to that. Yeah. Okay.